Can I use that? Are we allowed to say that word?
No, you can't use that. Not just because we can't say it, but because I don't want anyone knowing I said it. That's a personal thing, mostly.
Okay. I'm
getting fat. Wake up, everybody. Today is Thursday, October 1st, and we are Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk about all the video games we wish we were playing. I'm one of your hosts, Karch, joined by my co-host, Jason Wright. If you decide you like us and want to hear us complain more about our mundane lives, you can find us at neverfreetoplay.com, patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, or on all the other social media where we are Never Free to Play. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, feedback, please send it to us at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Jason, how you doing?
Doing decent, my friend. Very decent. YouTube watchers, which I don't know who watches this on YouTube, might notice that the background behind me is a little different. That is because I am at an Airbnb, but the show must go on. And so I might post this up on Twitter, the little picture of my ridiculous setup. I brought like everything from home. But you might notice me looking down more than normal. I gotta look down at the laptop screen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Anyway, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad the smell in my house is gone. We left some broccoli in the steam oven overnight, or over the entire day. It was in there for like a good 24 hours, and I noticed it earlier in the day, and I was like, I don't want to deal with that right now, so I just left it in there.
Was it on, or like, how did this happen?
Nah, it's a steam oven, so we steamed some broccoli in it, and then we left it in the oven during dinner last night to keep it warm, and then nobody remembered it was there and didn't put it away. And anybody who's ever come anywhere near broccoli knows it smells disgusting even at its best. So I had to open it up and dump it in the trash, and it was just, the house smelled for like 2 hours.
That's terrible, dude.
Yeah, it's over now.
I feel you. We've, like, anytime we're doing anything with cauliflower, same thing. Except for it literally smells like garbage in the house.
Yeah.
Even if you clean it up in an appropriate amount of time, it's disgusting. I feel for you.
Cauliflower is a garbage vegetable, as is broccoli.
But it's supposed to be good for you. That's the thing I don't get is why is everything that's supposed to be good for you smell bad and not taste as good? Like, you really have to do something special to those vegetables to make them palpable. And this, I'm coming from somebody who, I mean, I like broccoli. Lauren does this cool thing in the oven where she drizzles like balsamic vinaigrette on it when it comes out, and it's good. But I don't know. Shouldn't have to do that. Chocolate's good on its own, you know?
Yeah. Coffee's good on its own.
It really is. And I don't care if it gets pooped out by bats.
That's only some coffee. My coffee's not getting pooped out by anybody except me.
Are you sure about that?
No, but I mean, you're gonna tell me that all the world's coffee's getting run through bats first? I doubt it. I very much doubt it.
No, definitely not. But what I will tell you that I learned about coffee, I don't know when it was. I guess it was a while back, but there is a non-negative or a non-zero acceptable tolerance for the amount of ground insects in coffee.
Yeah, I mean, that's true for every food.
That's disturbing.
Rat turds, you can have like .something% in meat, you know, that kind of stuff. It's
good Lord.
Because it's literally unavoidable. Like, we get, you know, the last 30 years, we got kind of started living in this bubble. Like, wait, what? Because you don't have visible rat turds in your house. So why would there be rat turds anywhere in my food? But factories are factories, and, you know, people transferring food from literally other countries with maybe not the best standards, you know, so it happens. A little poop here and there.
I just feel like in 2020, we could just be doing a little bit better, you know? I just thought, we don't have flying cars, but we can't keep the rat poop out of our food.
We don't want to keep the rat poop out.
Do you think that's like an immunity thing?
No, I just think it's a flavor thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Housekeeping. Like, sub, follow, share. Click that link. Smash that bell. Ring a ding ding. Nobody's
done it in a while, so you could be the first. We'll shout you out.
We're bad at sharing. We don't share stuff very well because nobody wants it. They get mad and they take it down, and nobody follows me on Twitter because I'm a sad, lonely man.
What are you gonna do?
But we got a new plan. My wife's starting her own little Instagram journey.
That's right.
She's gonna be blogging. I'm going to support her fully. I'm going to prop her up, and she's going to be big and famous, and then she's going to plug us.
That's a great idea. And actually, I think she's been on like 2 weeks. She has more followers than us already.
Oh, yeah. She's got 100.
Like across all platforms.
Yeah, it oscillates. She loses a few here, gains a few here, but there's a steady increase, and she's already in the triple digits. So,
what are we doing wrong, dude? Anyway, I'm so happy for Rachel. I really am. And
we're not on Instagram. Apparently, is the problem.
Just no. I don't think that's it. I really don't think that's it. I think you got to pick one platform to focus on. Anyway, we don't have to talk social media strategy right now.
That's a good idea. We can talk about video games, specifically video game news. Not a lot. It is a weak.
Yeah.
Weak. Not meaty. Thin. Barren. What's the word I'm looking for? Gamey. It's a gamey week. Pokemon expansion, Crown Tundra details were not technically revealed because apparently all this was known. I just haven't been on the Pokemon bandwagon for a while, so I didn't know about any of it. It boils down to it just being a new area with new fights and new characters and, most importantly, new Pokemon.
So this is DLC for Sword and Shield?
Yeah, they had the expansion pass, I don't know, pretty soon after launch. Like within 6 months, they were toting around this expansion pass. It was a 2-parter, kind of like what they did with the Breath of the Wild, where they had like 2 parts, where the first part was kind of like pointless, and the second part was the one that actually had the, stuff people wanted. Same thing here. The first part had like this teeny tiny like 3-hour like story DLC and then nothing else for the most part. And this one's the big one because it's going to bring back every legendary Pokemon in every mainline game. So if it existed, yeah, exactly. So all the way back from Red and Blue all the way up to Sun and Moon before this, it's going to have them all, which is cool because, legendary Pokemon, aside from some of the more recent ones, because they're just getting so many of them, and so, of course, it loses its appeal, they're awesome. Like the 3 birds, the trio, they're bringing them back, but they're bringing back their Galarian variants, so the location is Galar, and then they're going to have different Moltres, different Zapdos, and Articuno, and the designs look awesome. They look really cool.
Is Jim Sterling happy that Ekans is going to be there?
Is Ekans in it?
I don't know. You said they were going to bring back all the legendary Pokemon. I thought you meant like the original one, however many there were.
No, so certain Pokemon are classified as legendary. Your Mews, your Mewtwo's, your.
Well, that's not as cool. I feel like
it's pretty cool.
Call me crazy, and I'm not a Pokemon. I haven't played Pokemon since the 90s, really. But I feel like every Pokemon game should have to have that original cast of like the original ones.
A lot of people got really annoyed because they kept doing that. They kept bringing too much of too much focus on Kanto, which is the original 151 location, and like those 151 Pokemon just kept kind of squeezing out because like you do love them. They are great and you have nostalgia, but like unfortunately at that point, even if you want the new Pokemon, you then kind of just stop. You just don't do it because you're like, but Squirtle, and then you go back to Squirtle every time. And
what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it technically
because they go back to the well on so many things in this franchise. It's not like they're constantly evolving the mechanics or the story. So,
to be fair, a lot of that was Dexit. Everybody was really mad when they weren't going to bring forward every single Pokemon like they have in every other game. So if they would just do that, then everybody could have exactly what they want.
Well, see, and that's what I thought you were telling me this expansion was, but apparently that's not the case. So, I mean, even as a non-Pokemon fan, that's kind of like, okay, why didn't you, if you're going to do this DLC thing, why not bring them all?
They did bring back a handful. Like, I think Sword and Shield launched, I think they had like 300-ish. And I think the number is now 450 that you can acquire in Sword and Shield.
So, are you going to go back and play it?
No, probably not because I have to pay for it. I might load it up and just keep playing what I was playing because I never did.
You're not going to because I promised I wasn't going to let you.
Oh, it was a trap. I see. You tricked me. You're a jerk.
I'm just being a good friend.
I'm going to go play Nexamon.
This is an intervention. You're not playing anything Amon, okay? You can play Bug Fables.
You really want me to play Bug Fables. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I look out for you.
Yeah. Next up, Hades wins Karch's coveted Game of the Year award. Congratulations, Supergiant Games. You earned it. Well done.
And in October, before Cyberpunk even comes out. I mean, that is impressive.
Yeah, screw you, Cyberpunk, The Last of Us 2, Ori, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and everything else I didn't have a chance to play yet, like Hyrule Warriors. You just couldn't make it. You couldn't cut the mustard. That's the thing, right?
I do want to hear more about this when we get to what we've been playing, but I've been playing it some too, and I'm digging it. And I'm not ready to call it my game of the year, but I would definitely say it's a contender.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have that conversation in a couple of months. So. Because you are going to play Cyberpunk.
Oh, I definitely am.
Yeah.
That's a day one purchase for me.
Man, we're going through this news real fast. Here we go. Super Mario Bros. 35 is finally available. It is out now, I believe, worldwide. It launched last night in Japan because Japan's in the future.
Woo!
But it's free for Nintendo Switch Online members. It was so funny. Last night I sent you a text. I was like, oh yeah, September came and went, and they didn't do anything for Nintendo Switch Online. They technically didn't because today is October. Because we were expecting something specifically with like their retro gaming services, like with the Super Nintendo, maybe launch a N64 thing, but I guess they just don't care about the subs, or they thought this was good enough, but for some reason they wanted to wait until October to launch it. I don't know. But I was a little disappointed that didn't happen.
I'm with you. That is disappointing, especially in the face of this next-gen console coming out. You know, the next-gen console's coming out in a month and some change, but you know, you'd think Nintendo would try to do something to, I don't want to say stay relevant, but you would think they would do something to just be like, hey, look at me. I'm still here. Continue to subscribe to this thing for another year. But
I feel like they are. I feel like they did that with the Mario thing. But but you did say subscribe. So specifically, yes, I agree that they should have done something for the Switch service like they did the last two, because I want free stuff. Or, you know, seemingly free, you know, give me because I'm not going to bother canceling the subscription, even though I don't think I use it for anything except the cloud saves, which, you know, I got a few things that I don't want to lose, so that's fine. I'll pay for the cloud saves.
Do you have to be a Nintendo Switch Online member to like be able to log into multiple accounts to do like the family share sort of thing?
Yes.
So then that's an incentive. If that's, I don't know, somebody might need to correct us on that, but that would be an incentive if you have to be a Nintendo Switch Online member to log into like other consoles and download your games, which I don't know if you do or you don't.
I don't think you do.
I don't think you do either, because I know you don't have to be on PlayStation, like, because I haven't had PS Plus in like almost 2 years.
That's a good question. We'll have to figure that out.
The one thing I wanted to say about this, because I didn't know about this, and I saw the launch trailer pop up on the gaming sub today, so I was like, oh, cool, because I didn't realize this is like Tetris 99 for Mario, which is awesome, and I'm probably going to play it some tonight. But then one thing I noticed in the trailer, and this may have been information that's already known, but I don't know that we've talked about it, is it says it's only playable until March 21st of next year. So what happens after that? It just goes away forever? Like
presumably it's the same thing with 3D All-Stars. They put a time limit on that for the same date. Like there's just this period, this anniversary period in which a lot of this Mario stuff, the stuff that isn't already gone at that point, just stops being available.
That's bizarre.
It's very bizarre.
That's just really, I mean, Nintendo is the king of creating hype. And maybe that's kind of what they're doing now, because they kind of thrive on that supply scarcity tactic of marketing. But I just don't know if it's going to work the same here, because it almost makes me not want to get into it, because I don't want to get into something that I'm not going to have access to.
It's also like 6 months from now. The hype.
I don't. It's like it's weird. I'm a weird person. I can't.
No, not you. I'm saying like what strategy of hype is there for something that, like, it's one thing to like take it away in a month, you know, but like we're going to be tired of it by then. And you might still play it from time to time, but you will not play it with the same fervor that you played it at the beginning. That's just not going to happen with a game like this. Tetris 99 is not cool anymore. It's some people's playing it, sure, but it's not like the cool thing like it was.
I mean, I know you're right about that. It's just, why even do this?
Exactly. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. because none of it makes sense. Even a potential hype strategy doesn't make sense when you let it go for that long. At that point, you might as well just keep it around forever. Probably because they have one server. They have one server, and that's why their network stuff sucks so much.
It's actually in it's in Reggie's basement. It's just the one server. When it messes up, they have to call him and be like, "I know you're retired, but can you unplug it and plug it back in?"
No, and he's going to retire the server in March. That must be what it is.
Okay, yeah. Oh man, I feel like there was something else I was going to say about this, but I cannot remember what it is, so I'll just refrain.
Oh no, I dropped this sticky thing on the floor, and now there's hair all over it.
Ew.
Yeah, this is my life.
That's a real problem. Where did the hair come from? The dogs? The ladies?
Me too. All of us were hairy people.
Oh, okay.
We're just a hairy family.
We got that going on a little bit too.
Yep.
I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at this happy. This is a happy trail that leads down to an even happier forest. Let me tell you.
The happy forest. I love it. Makes sense too. All right. Next news. You put this under small stories, but this is a pretty big deal, even if we don't care.
Well, it's. I know that it is. I put this whole little small story section of just like things that I don't have much to say about that happened this week.
Right. Earlier this morning, actually, new character for Smash was revealed, both in a very like fanfare way because of the reaction, but also like it just kind of seemed very business as usual. There was nothing. Nintendo didn't seem that excited, if that makes any sense. But Steve from Minecraft and Alex, his female counterpart, were revealed as Smash characters. So Xbox getting in not one but two characters that they at least own at this time. Neither of which they created, but they do own them both Banjo Kazooie as a package deal, and then finally now Steve and Alex and a couple other people. Something about the zombie, I guess, and Enderman or Ender whatever. I don't know who that is.
I can't keep track of all this, and it's also, I did find it a little bit funny just as I'm not a Minecraft person, never have been.
Same.
But the fact that they had to say like Steve and Alex from Minecraft. I had no idea. If you just told me Steve and Alex were coming to Smash, I'd be like, oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, I love Steve.
Who are they?
Did you watch the trailer? Like the intro?
Negative.
It was good. Like they all are. Like if nothing else, if you don't like half of the new characters introduced, every single new character introduction trailer has been top-notch grade A. And then, it briefly after they introduce the character himself and it says he joins the battle, it shows off him using his moves and the characters living in the world. And then Sakurai did it again. He found a way to make this bizarro, low-res, intentionally ugly, blocky character just fit right into the Smash Brothers universe. And it is kind of like...
son of a gun.
I know. When he's presenting it, it is just so like, yeah, I did it. Maybe I didn't want to. Like, there's this kind of undertone that maybe this was one of those choices he didn't get to make on his own, but they told him to do it, so he did it.
Sure. And now I know there's been a lot of clamoring for Master Chief to be a playable character. Do you think that this opens the door to that at all?
I think that Banjo opened the door to that. I think this game opened the door to everything. Assuming it's a true video game character. Like, I know,
so not Goku.
Goku's
I want Goku.
No, Goku's such a stupid idea.
Why? He'd basically have a very similar moveset to Mewtwo. He could kind of float and like that.
I'm not saying you can't make a Goku good in a fighting game. Of course you can. I'm saying he doesn't belong in Smash Brothers.
Who does? I mean, so I'm sorry. Steve and Alex belong in it, and he doesn't.
Under the criteria that they are video game characters, yes, not characters who appear in a video game, but are video game characters.
Goku is literally a character in another fighting game.
But he's not. He's a manga anime character that they made a game about. That's not the same thing.
Oh,
I don't think, for what it's worth, I don't think Cloud should be there. I know a lot of people like Cloud, but I think that was it's so bizarre. Because at least all these other games, except for Terry from Final Fight or whatever his series is, every other character except for him and Cloud exists somewhere, at some time on a Nintendo console. Which is like I know it's fun and it's like whatever, you do you and everybody have a good time, but like, I don't know. I liked it better when they were like at least something like, I could go play on a Nintendo console. Like even Solid Snake had Twin Snakes on the GameCube, and then later they had the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake on the 3DS, which nobody played. But
I just disagree with you fundamentally, but we don't have to hash that out. It's fun. It's fun. It's zany. There doesn't have to be a reason. There
does though, because like it's not.
Does it break the immersion for you?
Yeah, not like immersion's not the right word, but like, you know, I've created a rule set, like, and rules are meant to be broken, obviously, but at some point everybody just nopes out. They're like, oh, that's too much.
And that's why they're not in the core game. You know, that's why these characters appear later as like the fun thing that you get added later.
I suppose, but it's all that's just milking it, you know, because they would have showed up eventually. They just decided to, you know, make you pay for it.
I suppose. Agree to disagree on this.
Sure.
But I just have no like excitement for Steve and Alex from Minecraft. To me, they just sound like crappy little ice climber characters. Maybe that's not true. I didn't even watch the trailer, and I don't play Smash anymore right now. I typically will play it when I have people come to visit who want to play. But I don't just sit there and, you know, play Smash Bros on a regular, so.
Who would get you excited?
Goku.
Non-Goku. Everybody says Goku. Even if they mean it, everybody says Goku.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's a single video game character that they could bring that I would be like, oh my gosh, I have to go back to Smash to play this character. Because the thing is like I have the characters that I'm good with. Mm-hmm. And the ones that get added always tend to have these gimmicks that I just cannot.
For sure.
Like, I mean, I've been playing Smash since the first one. And that's kind of those core mechanics are what I'm decent at. I won't even say good, but I can hold my own against most people. And then you add in this other stuff that I can't do it. Especially the ones that have the little, I don't know what they're called, the thing at the bottom where there's a character who reads out of a book who casts spells and you have to change the spells and stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that Robin? Who is that?
Yes, that is Robin from Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yeah, like those little mechanics like that, or like even like the most I can get on board with is Mac has that little fill meter at the bottom that you can have at the KO, you know, thing. And anything more complex than that, I can't handle it. Call me old school. I don't know, but so I just feel like I'd have to think about what character would get me excited enough to go back to it. Do you have one off the top of your head?
Yeah, it would be Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, okay. But that's breaking your rule, or is it because 3DS?
Not even. The second game ever made for the series was on the Game Boy Advance.
Okay. Well, in the spirit of characters who sound like the character name starts with the letter Z, even though it might not, I'm going to say King Zora from Ocarina of Time, but then he has only one move. He starts on one end of the map and he goes wham, wham.
He just described it. It's just a trophy. That'd be awesome. He's unstoppable though. You cannot move him.
Wham. And yeah, he's absolutely unstoppable. If you even touch him, he's dragging you to the end and he falls off and you go with him.
Oh, that's so good.
I would do that.
He's so hideous.
That would get me back.
Such a point. I'm just sitting here. I hate that character so much. He's much cooler.
I hate that noise. I hate how many other. There's like he does it like 21 times.
Yeah,
and you have to sit there. It's unskippable.
It's because they thought it was funny. They knew what they were doing. It wasn't an accident.
Yeah, that and that stupid owl. He reverses the prompt to be like, "Did you understand?" And you immediately hit the accept button, except for the default changes from like yes to no, and then he repeats it. That is evil.
Yeah, it is.
Why would you do that?
Because they hate you.
Apparently,
I think
that's the thing that we've been missing this whole time is Nintendo hates its fan base, and they exist to troll. Mm-hmm. They're never going to they could easily knock it out of the park. They could easily come out and say like, hey, we're building a console that competes with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. It is going to be next gen. It's going to have everything. It's going to be x86 architecture. It's going to have every third party game. And then in addition, all the Nintendo IP that you love. And I really feel like that do well. And then in addition, they could continue the Switch as the dedicated handheld. And they could do that tomorrow. Not really tomorrow, but you understand what I'm saying? But they don't. because they exist to troll, and they just don't want to do what you want them to do. And that's the way you get design things like this.
That's why you get Kirby Fighters too.
Yeah, exactly.
$20. They want $20 for that game.
That's actually better than I thought. I mean, being Nintendo, I would have expected 60.
I thought it was free.
Oh, did you?
I did. I thought it was like, here's a fun free-to-play Kirby Party Fighter.
Why wouldn't it have just been DLC for Smash? I don't get it.
Because Kirby already gets to be everybody. Sean does raise a good point, though. What does Kirby look like when he swallows Steve? We need to know. I want to know.
Probably just like a pink pixel body.
I mean, that's simple, and I love it. I love the idea of him being just like a square cube thing now. All right, enough smashing on Smash. Another next small story was Peter Parker, and this is real small. Peter Parker gets recast in Spider-Man PS5 Remaster. Jason couldn't tell the difference, so probably not that big a deal.
No, they didn't recast the voice actor, right? They just redid the model.
They kept his name is Yuri Lowenthal. They kept him. They said it was something. It said it had something to do with changing the face so it better matched like Yuri's facial expressions, specifically going forward with the PS5 and any other, with the franchise in general. But it's a pretty drastic change.
So they did like 3D model his. They like put those little balls on his. They put the balls on his face and they like mocapped.
Right. They didn't model it after him. Like he does. It doesn't look like him. But yes, he did. Motion capture. He did performance capture to.
He did get the balls on his face to do that.
The balls are on his face. All those white balls.
Yeah. Okay.
I hated Peter Parker's hair in the original PS4 Spider-Man 2018. I cannot stand that hair. It was bad textured, looked ugly. It was like if you saw somebody with that hairstyle in real life, I would have been like, "That's a bad hairstyle." Like, I mean, you look at mine; it's hideous, but like I'm owning it. Clearly, Peter was like, "Oh, my hair's hot stuff, and I know it. Come to my place, Mary Jane." But I didn't mind his face. I thought his face was great, but now he looks too. They've Tom Holland him. He looks like a much younger version of Peter. But Peter's like he's an adult now. He's in like his PhD program or whatever. He shouldn't look like a baby, and he looks like a baby boy now. I don't like it.
That's interesting. So I'm looking at a picture now. So the younger looking one is the new one.
Yeah.
And you're right. His hair is really bad.
It's really bad. I just wanted new hair, but they gave me new
his
everything.
Eyebrows are a lot better now, though.
Yeah, I mean,
like the skin. You know how much I like skin in video games?
I do.
You know how I always talk about the skin?
Uh-huh.
The skin looks a lot better in this one.
Well, it is PS5 too, to be fair.
Yeah. Wow, that in the eyebrows, I think I just mentioned that. Man, this is a good looking face. This looks like a normal human with just slightly... Like the hair's not.
He just looks like a normal human.
Yeah, what I was going with that is like it looks very like if you told me this was a picture, I'd be like, oh, okay. Versus like the original PS4 one, if you told me that was a picture, I would be like, no, it's not.
Can they remodel Mary Jane too? Because I didn't like the way she looked.
I didn't like having to play as her. That's honestly about when I quit playing.
But that's not why you quit playing, though.
No, it's not why I quit playing. Okay. It's just about when I quit playing.
Right. No, it is a terrible section, though. It's not quit-worthy for anyone who hasn't played it yet, but it is skip-worthy, if you could.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of it's skip-worthy.
Not as bad as the Miles portions, though.
I'll be honest with you, though. I could see myself picking this back up on PS5 because I already traded it in, so like I don't really get burnt by not getting the free upgrade.
Right.
But
no. There's no free upgrade. That's a whole thing that we didn't cover last week because it's too confusing to cover. But there is no
cover it. We did cover it.
Did we cover it? We might have mentioned how
we mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, that's my point is I won't get burnt by not getting the free upgrade.
I see.
Like
yeah.
There is no free upgrade to get, so it's fine that I don't
No loss. Yeah.
Right.
Man, I want a PS5.
You're gonna get it, man. I want a GTX 3080.
Just go to the 3090. Come on.
No.
Do it.
I can't. I really can't.
You can. I believe in you. I believe in you like I believed in Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red when they said they weren't going to make people crunch this time. But lo and behold, they're making them crunch.
A whole 6 days.
A whole 6? I thought it was 7.
How dare they?
How dare they?
How dare they?
Is that all? I don't even know.
Do you want to go into this one? Because
not deeply. Let's see.
Just tell us what happened.
Basically, at some point in time, like within the last year or two, you know, CD Projekt Red got on the horn with somebody, Schreier or some other reporter, and is like, we're not going to do that. Crunch is that's not our bag. We're not going to worry. We're going to figure a way out around it. We're going to delay. We're going to do all these other things. And then like this 2 days ago, they're like, oh no, we're going to have to crunch. Like, it's mandatory though. I don't like that it's mandatory. I mean, they're paying them, you know, they're compensating them. At least they say they are. I don't know. I can't prove that they're not, so I'll believe them. And then they're saying that 10% of annual profit for our company generates in 2020 will be split directly among the team. And that's not nothing to sneeze at, because it's like, oh, 2020 is almost over, but they're going to make the most of their money for this game, or at least a very, very large portion of the money for this game within the first week. So that's nothing to sneeze at, then divided amongst the team, which, while sizable, isn't as big as something like an Activision or EA. So you should see a fancy bonus, you know, in your paycheck, assuming you're part of the
It sounded like
quote.
they were talking about the team, not the publisher.
Right.
Because EA and Activision are publishers.
Well, right. But that's what I was just trying to, I was saying a big
right.
name, big number.
I want to read Adam Badowski. He's the studio lead at CD Projekt Red. I want to read his statement because he did kind of reply to the, I guess, I didn't really see a lot of outrage for this, but, you know, obviously there were those in the industry that were upset with it.
That's because we have real problems, unfortunately. Like,
right.
This is just simply one more news story in something that we've been talking about for a while. The needle isn't moved. It isn't egregious enough to like cause any outrage because we've already been outraged about it. It's just more like, we'll just put that piece of paper on top of the pile kind of situation.
Right. So what Adam Badowski says is, these last 6 weeks are our final sprint on a project we've all spent much of our lives on, something we care for deeply. The majority of the team understands that push, especially in the light of the fact that we've just sent the game to CERT, and every day brings us visibly closer to shipping a game we want to be proud of. This is one of the hardest decisions I've had to make, but everyone is well compensated for the extra hour they put in. And like in recent years, 10% of the annual profit our company generates in 2020 will be split directly among the team. So it sounds like it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't egregious. It was a very, what's the word? It was a very intentional decision to work overtime for a short period on the project. It wasn't this systemic cultural issue like what we hear like Rockstar had, where it ruins lives, it ruins marriages, blah, 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 the rest. This to me, this is the equivalent of the boss saying, hey, we're really behind. We just got to work this weekend. Sorry. You're going to get paid overtime. So like, to me, this isn't as egregious as some of the things we've heard. This doesn't scream crunch culture to me. This is like, to me, any other job where you occasionally have to work overtime. Like, I have to occasionally work overtime, occasionally have to cover runs. It's nights, it's weekends. I take calls on the weekends occasionally. And this is just, they've been working on this game for how long? And this is the one time they've had to work some overtime. And they're getting paid for it.
I mean, that's not entirely true. This one instance doesn't speak of that, but they've been under fire before for crunch. They have a culture of crunch. I mean, say they do. They all do. They just do it too, and they might do it more. And I've seen tweets fairly recently, even like within the last 6 months or maybe a little bit more now, where they're just like, crunch is no big deal. We love it. We're passionate, but we do crunch. Like, they're like, crunch, crunch, crunch. The word gets thrown around all the time when it comes to CD Projekt Red. So they definitely do this. They might have said, oh, we're going to try not to do this, and then that clearly didn't work. But again, no, you're right that this one instance does not, like, it doesn't move the needle in any one direction. It's just like, okay, It's overtime, and they're going to get paid for it.
Right.
And
I mean, and to me, like, you don't want people working just 70 hours a week on a consistent basis, but
no,
I mean, do it every once in a while, and I have no problem with it. And that's as somebody who's like very adamant about having work-life balance, but I do understand that occasionally this happens. So, I mean, if what you're saying is true, like maybe that needs to be addressed, but I don't know.
I am curious, and we talked about this a little bit the other day, but like, what's so important that they need to do this? The game is so close. So either this is wholly unnecessary, it's going to continue well past what they said it's going to, or their game is in serious trouble that they need to do this late, even after the game is going to cert, that they have to continue to rush. And I know they always are, all the companies always are, and they're going to continue. And that's the other thing. They're going to continue to work on this game. They're going to send out updates to fix bugs. Like, what's in there that needs mandatory team-wide overtime? Like, is it just a perfection? Like, I can't imagine what it is.
I think I read a Kotaku article that speculation, of course, but it's actually the fine tuning on the genitalia modification in the character creation screen.
Oh no, I got hiccups. It's like the sixth time tonight, but it's worth it.
Yeah, so anyway, I don't know. I'm with you. I know it's interesting, like, to think about, what could it be, but at the same time, if you saw the state that The Witcher 3 launched in, it got a lot of crap at the time for being clunky, and they quickly patched it. So it could be something as simple as like certain areas are clunky or certain mechanics are clunky, and they're just trying to make it such that the day one patch fixes it before people get their hands on it. I really don't know. That's total speculation, but
sure. You're right about that as far as like it being a clunky launch with The Witcher, but at the same time, it didn't hurt The Witcher at all, and it never hurts Fallout or any of Bethesda's games either. So
they want it to be perfect because Keanu Reeves is in it, and he's counting on them.
Dude, there was a cool new, like, not a launch trailer because it's not out yet, but like what do they call it? They had a name for
Cinematic trailer?
No, not even. It was like it's kind of like a TV trailer. It had that look of it. Okay. Hold on. Seize the Day. It was called Seize the Day. And it was pretty cool. Reeves is in it, but like live action Reeves is in it. And so, he's being cool, and he's getting in a car, and he's talking about, Night City and criminals and stuff. So it's real quick. Check it out if you want to get hyped.
Totally.
And I know you
hyped.
do. I know you do.
I'm already hyped.
All right. Any last news stories before we go, Jason?
I don't think so. I think I'm ready for that drink break.
All right. That was the news. All right. Let's talk about what we wish we were playing, because we here at Never Free to Play don't have a lot of time to play video games that aren't Hades. And so there's when there's no time left over after you've traveled through Tartarus and Asphodel and all the other layers of his domain. Jason, what do you wish you had time to play right now?
Oh, what do I wish I had time to play?
Wish.
I cannot remember if I said this out loud on the show. I don't think I have. So I'm going to say Red Dead Redemption 2. And here's why. Greg bought that game at launch, quickly figured out it wasn't for him, but wanted me to try it out. So it was physical. So he gave it to my dad. What year did that game launch? 2019? 2018.
18, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, he bought that game at launch, and I think it came out in like November-ish timeframe. In December, he gave it to my dad to bring home to Huntsville to give it to me. And I just got it last week.
That's funny.
So it's been sitting over at my parents' house for, I don't know, almost 2 years now. And I finally got it. And I do want to check it out, even though I'm not going to beat it, and I know I'm not, but I know it's a technical marvel. I know Rockstar is unparalleled in world building. Like, I want to go in and just see what it's all about because so many people raved about it. And I know that was a little bit divisive, and that some people were like, yeah, this is too much of a simulator. It's more of a simulator than a game. But I want to see. I want to see it for my own self. What about you?
I think I'm ready for anything at this point. I think I'm done with Hades, so we'll talk about soon. I'm not done with Hades at all. I'm gonna have to pull myself away from Hades. I think I'm wishing I was playing Paper Mario. I got, we're going to send the kiddo to grandma's, and I think I'm going to download that and have a good cozy time with it.
Sweet. This weekend?
Yeah.
You gotta give me a heads up when we can have shoutcasts.
It's not a shoutcast. She's still here.
I know, but I'm saying like we could have bumped the show till tomorrow.
Why would I waste the precious time I have to spend with my wife / nobody with you?
Why would you waste the time that you're going to make Rachel watch you play Paper Mario? It's a podcast with me instead.
I'm going to make her watch me. I'll play it on my handheld. But I'll get to start at like 6 instead of 9:30.
Great.
So great. I'm gonna play some Mario too. I'm gonna get some more stars. But I've been every day. I'm like, oh, I should probably play Mario for a little bit. I'm like, no.
Same.
But yeah, that's about it. There was nothing new that like came out and like started tugging at my heartstrings. I know that Pikmin game comes out soon, but it ain't here yet. So, and I ain't getting it. So. On to the game of the year. We have been playing even more Hades. Jason really got into it this week. So, Jason, tell us how it's been.
So, yeah, I've gotten a lot further into it this week than I have been able to the week before. I'm addicted to it. I love the what's getting me, and I think it's probably the same for anybody who likes this type of game, is the gameplay loop. Because it's just so satisfying. And like you said last week before, there are no bad runs. You always feel like you're making progress. And that's something where, like, you and I debated, is this game better than Dead Cells? Is it not better than Dead Cells? I'm going to say this so far, because I haven't put as many hours into Hades as I have into Dead Cells. But what I will say is that I think Hades has a more addictive gameplay loop, and I think they handle permanent progression and what I will say, like, a more fun way than Dead Cells. I do still prefer the combat in Dead Cells, but I think it's very close. And so I'm really enjoying Hades. I've beaten the boss. So like the way that to me, the benchmarks are, what weapons have you beaten each boss with? Like when you haven't beaten the game, it's like, what weapons have you beaten what bosses with? And then how far have you gotten into the story? What have you unlocked? So this is not really spoilery at all, but I've beaten the first boss with like 3 of my 5 weapons, and I've beaten the second boss with 2 of the weapons. I don't have the ability to upgrade weapons with the Titan Blood yet, but I think I unlocked something else. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I unlocked the secondary power-ups in the mirror.
Oh, cool. That one, so, I didn't get that for a while.
I don't know what triggers these things to happen. Like I have
me neither.
The Titan Blood. I have 3 of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I can't like upgrade the weapons with it yet. But I did talk to Achilles and he was like, yeah, just hold on to that and I'm sure you can feed it to your weapon or something.
Just smear it all over.
Right. So tell me about it, because rumor has it you quote unquote rolled credits on this.
I did. I rolled credits on it. I beat it. So as much as one can beat this game, because there's still so much left to do. I've probably beat it about the 40-hour mark, if I had to say. And yeah, I said earlier in the podcast during the news that this is my game of the year, and it's going to take a miracle to dislodge it from that position, because I'm not going to enjoy Cyberpunk the way that most people will. I already know that. So that's the miracle, because like Hyrule Warriors, it's going to be a good time. I'm anticipating that game. I'm going to buy it and I'm going to enjoy it. It is not going to be my game of the year either. And so that doesn't really leave anything else. There's just nothing else left for me to play.
Because you liked The Last of Us Part 2, but you didn't love it. And the kind of the same goes for Ghost of Tsushima. So
and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like I said, even if I played it again, I very, very much doubt that it's going to eke out Hades. Loved Final Fantasy VII Remake. It was a really good game. I loved Ori, Will of the Wisps. Amazing game. I think when we talked a couple months ago for our so far, I think that was my game of the year so far.
I have to go back and look. Yeah,
me too. I can't even remember anymore because Hades has blocked everything out.
The thing that I find funny is that how quickly you and I poured hours into this, as opposed to how long it took us to put 25 hours into The Last of Us Part 2. And I think part of that is because you go in like, oh yeah, I can get a run done in 20 minutes tops. But then that becomes 2 runs, 3 runs, 5 runs, 10, you know what I mean? Like, it's so easy and addicting to be like, okay, well, I know I just died. I got so far though, and I know what I did wrong. If I could just go get this one little upgrade thing, talk to this person, then I could go back in and just like, I can do one more run. Yeah. And it is it grabs you like that. Like
everything's motivating. Right. Everything, like you just described one way you're motivated, that like, oh, I can do it better next time. Sometimes you beat it and you're like, well, now I'm going to do it with this weapon. Like, or I'm going to do it because there's so many different ways to, it's called escaping. You know, the goal is to escape Hades. So every time you escape, that is quote unquote a victory. But there's so many different criteria of which you can escape. And then there's those little prophecies that I assume you've unlocked at this point, right?
No, I don't. No, so when I pick up a boon, which for anyone who hasn't played the game, that is kind of the way you build your character for the run. Every chamber you'll defeat enemies. And then once you defeat the enemies, you either get gold, nectar, the dark matter currency, which allows you to upgrade, or you'll get a boon from a god. And the boon is kind of like a skill. It's a modifier to a weapon or a skill or whatever. So on the boons, it says like one prophecy predicts you will pick this and one prophecy predicts you will pick that, but I don't know what that means yet.
I think you might have just missed it. So next time you play, go to your room. Okay. And there should be a table like just to the left, and you should be able to like interact with it. Yeah, those are like I did unlock that, but I thought those were like the in-game achievements. Do you actually get anything for doing those? Yeah, if you read through them, you'll see it'll list a reward. You might even have some unlocked at this point that you can you can claim. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I'm learning how to play this game real time. Yeah. And like I just unlocked another thing. And then when you escape your first time, the game isn't over yet. Like the credits haven't rolled. You'll have to escape a decent number of times. I won't say how many or why or whatever, but you have to escape. You've escaped more than once? I thought, oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, dude, I've escaped several times. Plus, this makes me sad because I haven't even escaped once. You know, it's one of those things. As soon as you do it, you're like, "Oh, I can do this a million times," but they're gonna throw stuff at you like, "No, you can't," or at least you're gonna have a harder time, or you're gonna have a new motivation. How many runs did you do before you escaped your first time? Because I'm probably around close to 20 runs at this point, maybe more. I want to say high 30s, low 40s. Okay. Yeah. Oh no, I just moved my video around a little bit accidentally. Don't do that. I was trying to wipe a smudge off my screen. Yeah, but nothing new really to say that isn't a spoiler that really drives home why I love this game so much. I'm still fine. There's still stuff to do, like meaningful stuff to do that isn't just playing the game, which is by itself really fun and rewarding. But I do have a couple complaints. You know, this is a perfect game. You know, on my scale of stuff, that doesn't mean it doesn't have flaws. It's just like there's nothing like it, and there may never be anything like it, at least for a very long time. And this game just like fits its role so perfectly. So it's perfect special game. For sure. You can tell that. Yeah. But it's got flaws, and flaws might not even be the right word. That's things I really, 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 really wish it had. One, the genre by default, you know, the runs get longer. The further you get and the better you are, any single run is going to take a long time. Like it used to be like, 10, 15 minutes, no big deal because I'm dying within the second level or maybe the early parts of the third one. Now, if I'm getting through 9 times out of 10, we're talking like 30 to 35, you know, depending on how slow I'm taking it. Sometimes it goes faster if you've got a really sweet build, but that's a long time for something you're wanting to like repeat over and over again. And so I just wish I could suspend a run, save it, quick save it, and I can only return to that, you know, the beginning of that chamber or whatever, or restart from, you know, before I did that or something like that. So sure. I can't. And when you say that, just for clarification, because I was confused when you said that to me, you don't mean the suspend resume feature of the Switch itself, where you can, you know, lock it. You mean like in Dead Cells, where you can just like basically save and quit, and then when you go back in and load up the file, you're exactly where you were in that exact run. Yep.
Because
like
you
I said,
cannot
maybe
do that. If you save and quit on this, you'll go back out to the main house, right?
that's right. And at the end of the day, it's really not that big a deal. But like, you know, life's chaotic, and the Switch has gotten me accustomed to being able to, and modern gaming in general has gotten me accustomed to being able to just pick up and play, not just with the sleep feature, but in any sense of the word. And if Juliet wants to play Animal Crossing or wants to do a quick bit of Mario during my lunch or something, I want to be able to do that without having to say, oh, well, let me just spend 20 minutes finishing this run first because it's a really good one and I caught a bunch of fish that I want to take back.
Well, see, this is actually how I think Nintendo is incentivizing you to buy a second Switch.
Probably.
They paid Supergiant to not add that feature.
Big Nintendo.
Big Nintendo.
Let's see.
Big
another
Reggie.
one. So there was another big Reggie with his one server in his basement. I love this new lore. Another like quality of life thing would be really nice is so you can, when you do additional runs, you'll have options to basically get those really good resources again from the bosses that you usually only get one time. You'll be able to apply new conditions that will make the run different, and then you'll be able to get the Titan's Blood and the diamonds and the ambrosia, et cetera, et cetera. I wish you could get all the resources. Like if I beat it on like a higher level of difficulty, basically, I want to be able to get all the ones underneath that level, because it's basically like I've already proved I can do it because I did it here, like at level 5, for instance. So give me 4, 3, 2, and 1. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Instead, you have to beat it at 1. You can skip to 5, but you still have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4 if you want the resources that those runs will give you.
Gotcha.
And so it's just like, okay, I can see why they wouldn't have done that. Just from a design standpoint, I have no idea if it's a technical issue, but from a design standpoint, they want you to go through it. They want that longevity there. But like, this game is still going to be so long, even if they had that small quality of life feature. So I just wish I could do that.
Sure. That's like a professor that I used to have back in school. He made it such that if you made a higher grade on the final than tests during the semester, then he would just, whatever you made on the final would replace those lower test scores.
Pretty much the exact same concept, yeah.
Yeah. So in theory, you could just skip the whole course, show up on the last day of the final. If you got an A on the final, you get an A in the class.
Yeah, and when I thought of this idea, I was like, there are games I've played that do this, and I had like an example at the time, and I didn't write it down, so I can't remember like which one I did, but it is something I've seen in other games that, and sometimes with trophies, like you do it with like you're playing a game on a difficulty and it's like you do it on the hardest one, you'll get the trophies for everything underneath it because they're not going to make you play through easy, medium, hard, and very hard if you proved you can beat it on very hard. Sure. Oh, I did actually. I wrote down something here that I really like. That's just like a design thing. It's like with these games, especially Path of Exile, I'll use as a really, bad example of this thing that I'm talking about. Because, Path of Exile and Diablo, not unlike a roguelike. You do the same content over and over again, trying to get a little bit better gear, to get a little bit faster, to beat the boss at the end, move on to the next one, etc. Too obtuse. Those games are often so like they need user-generated manuals and wikis and guides, and you have to pour yourself into it just to understand the mechanics that obviously the developers know and design the game around, but like you don't, and the game doesn't tell you. There's no such thing in this game as that. Like something might be confusing at first because you literally just discovered it, but it will reveal itself in time, and you will memorize it without having to like have a second page up on your phone or anything like that. And that it's not simplicity because it's like it's just not overcomplicated, and I really appreciate that.
The other thing that I really like, I think kind of in that same vein, is when you're going through your upgrades, like if you get a boon, and it has almost like an appendix to define every term in the description of the boon so that you know exactly what the effect will be. And you don't have to go in and be like, oh, what was that thing? Let me Google it. Because it tells you right there what it is.
Yeah, that's the exact kind of thing.
Nice.
The exact kind of thing I'm talking about. Because like Dionysus, he's the god of wine. He has an ability called Hangover, which is essentially just a damage over time poison effect. And on any other game, they might have just not told you what Hangover does. It might sound appealing, and and you might figure it out if you used it and kind of like, oh, okay, I see damage ticking. Okay, there's stat. Like you could piece it together eventually, but no, like you said, you just mouse over it and it tells you what it does. Wow,
it's amazing.
How crazy.
Yeah, I know. I love that. I love it so much. I wish more games would do that.
Yeah, and so like I think the only question I have unanswered as of right now, and I couldn't find it when I Googled, is there are certain skills and bonuses, etc., that do more damage against undamaged enemies. And this game, enemies have a feature where they'll have armor on them. And so the armor is basically just another bar of health over their regular health, and it will prevent them from getting stunned while they have armor. So you got to break through the armor, break through the health, and then they die. Does an undamaged, is an enemy with armor count as undamaged? I think it doesn't. Or I think it does count as undamaged. No, wait, the other way. I think if you do any damage to it whatsoever, it's no longer undamaged. But it's not clear.
I would agree because there's a separate perk that will allow you to do more damage to armored enemies. So I would have to say
that was also my reasoning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just, I was hopeful because like for the most part, those skills seem to suck. Like there's not a lot of skills in this that just outright aren't good, but you don't have. There's no like big boy hammer, which is really sad. I wish there was a big boy hammer because I love big boy hammers. Everything's very fast. This game is fast. Mm-hmm. But there's no slow moving, really like meaty weapon that just does like 2 hits but does massive damage. So that extra bonus for that first and only hit is just, it's a waste. And it's especially a waste on bosses who have like 17 times as much health as any one enemy.
But it's such a good game.
Oh, it's so good. I wish there were more bosses. I wish there were more.
I don't because I haven't. I don't wish there were more bosses.
I like variety wise. Like I wish there like you could swap some in. Like I think the structure. I think the length of any one like any longer like any escape attempt would be too long if they like added like another level or another boss on top of it. I wouldn't want that. But I'm very curious because like I said, I'm still getting story bits, like legitimate story bits, like that between Hades and Zagreus and the other main players, even after the credits have rolled. So I'm like, is there going to be like another ending after this? But I don't want to look it up.
Right. And that's such a cool thing of like, you're doing the same thing over and over, but like your dialogue with the first boss is different every time you encounter her, and it unlocks more of the story. And then you kill her and she goes back to the main area because anybody who dies goes back to that main area. And so like you will encounter her out of combat and have conversations with her. It's just, it's funny. It's well done. It's highbrow. It's really good.
Yep. And sometimes those characters just aren't there. Like Meg is who you were talking about just now, Megara. She's just not there. And you're like, Meg, where are you? Oh, but I need her. I want to talk to her so bad. I got to go on another run so I can like make her come back for the next time.
Oh yeah, or like so every time you beat a boss for the first time with a unique weapon, you get that special thing. So like for Meg, it's Titan Blood. For the second one, it's like a diamond. And the first time I beat Meg, I got the Titan Blood, and then I talked to Achilles, and he told me what it was. And then when I finally killed the second boss, I had the diamond, and I went back, and I was like, I wanted to talk to Achilles about it, but he wasn't there. It's just so cool.
Yeah. Have you figured out what to do with them yet?
I think so. It sounds like the blood. I mean, I know that it upgrades your weapons, but I don't have that ability unlocked yet. And the diamond looks like it opens up bigger construction projects, which I haven't fully pieced together. It looks like some of those like construction projects are purely cosmetic, but then others are like actually give you in-game.
So there's one category or column on the far left, like the first category. Those are the game affecting ones that'll affect story and or like the actual runs. Everything else, and there's our fancy little tooltip. If you hover over it says a purely cosmetic like addition,
which is really nice. Yeah,
right. And that's where like eventually you'll have no use for gemstones and diamonds anymore, and you can buy like you can basically buy the music tracks to be played throughout the game or the house whenever you're there. You'll be able to unlock that eventually.
That's really cool.
Where those go. Yeah. So Hades, great game. And this will probably be the last week we talk about it. I mean, maybe next week you'll have a little bit more to say, like it's like a progress report, but I think
it's probably the only thing I'll play this week, to be honest with you. But yeah.
I'll definitely play something else. I'm gonna put my time into something else. I would just stop cold turkey and come back like maybe in a week or two. I'm just afraid that my skills and the memorization and muscle memory will disappear in that time.
Probably. We're
I don't
getting
want to
old, dude.
retream. We are so old.
All right, so we got a decision to make now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do?
I don't think the question's going to take too long, so let's do the topic of the show and the question.
Let's do it, man.
All right, so topic of the show. We are going to do a quick post-mortem on the E3 that never was. This year, COVID-19, coronavirus, amongst many other things, destroyed the long standing tradition of the electronic... What is it called? It's been so long since I've had to say the original title.
I don't actually know. Hold on. Electronic
Entertainment.
It's three
Electronic
E's.
Entertainment Expo. That's what it is. Electronic
There you
Entertainment
go.
Expo. There
Yes.
we go. More formally or less formally known as E3. But it was gone because people couldn't gather in places and a whole number of other things. Tokyo Game Show and Gamescom are the other two really big ones that happened a little later in the year. Actually, Tokyo Game Show happened, I believe, this past weekend or earlier this week over in Tokyo. But yeah, you couldn't get together. And so it left the entire industry scrambling to do a bunch of weird stuff online. And some of it was successful, but most of it, in my opinion, wasn't. You had Summer of Gaming, which was IGN's, right?
I believe so, yes.
And then Summer Games Fest was the Jeff Keighley spearheaded thing. Although the man is an enigma, and I can never find out what who. Is it literally just Jeff making a website and securing a domain, or what's his team look like? Who's bankrolling this, and who are his sponsors? I don't know what this process looks like. Anyway, you had these attempts to wrangle different aspects of the industry, and then you had PlayStation 5 was, or PlayStation and Microsoft and not really Nintendo were, cooperating with these various outlets and groups to give you glimpses into the new consoles and the new generation and new games, along with other publishers. But then they also ran off and kind of did their own thing sometimes. And so what you got was this hodgepodge of way too many things going on for those 3 or 4 months. And so how did you feel about it, Jason? Did you like it? Did you hate it?
I don't want to say that I hated it. I think it was just so disorganized because there literally was no one organizing it. I mean, and I know we had these things. We had the Summer of Gaming. We had the Summer Games Fest. I don't like the trickle of doing it from May to July. It's too much to keep up with. And unless you have that master calendar printed out and put up on your wall, you never knew when something was going to happen. And you couldn't watch it live. You had to pretty much catch up on it later. I do wonder too, how much of, Microsoft and Sony, they literally just within the past 2 weeks announced their price and release date. Part of me wonders if that would have been any different if we did have E3 as a platform and if COVID weren't a thing. I feel like it would have. I feel like we would have gotten that information at E3. So I still think there is a place for E3. I don't know. That's just how I felt about it. It was just it felt sporadic. It felt dispersed. It felt disorganized. It felt like it was just hard to keep track of everything. And even the seasoned influencers that we follow, I feel like struggled to keep up. I'm not going to say that they missed things. It's just they didn't miss anything big. It was just hard.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it was a lot to keep track of, and it was a lot coming fast, and it didn't seem super organized. So,
no, it definitely was not. And yeah, it wasn't even that they necessarily might have missed something. It's there comes a point where you literally don't have the time and manpower to cover everything. Not that you ever do, but even more so now. You are missing just entire shows, entire presentations, because you might be 4 or 5 guys with 2 extra people on your support side, there wouldn't have been, it just would have been logistically impossible to cover as much as you might have wanted to, or might have in the past, because it was all right in front of you.
Right. And something you said early on when I kind of had that complaint, and you were and you were just reasoning it through with me, just a devil's advocate of yeah, all this small stuff has always been here.
Yeah, it has.
But it's always been kind of more focused at the beginning of quote unquote E3, and then you got the big stuff. And so, like, I don't know, it was just easier to manage.
It was. Those smaller things were always there around the same time in the same place, but because you were able to ingest let's just say all the AAA stuff so quickly and succinctly, you could, like, or rather in between those presentations, you could then, kind of like cleanse your palate on that smaller stuff. And now let's go take a look over here while we're waiting for Sony in a couple days. We'll like check out a few of these smaller things either at the show floor or whatever was being presented online. Where was E3? Like, what's the name of the body that controls it? Do you remember?
Oh, the ESR? Hold on.
I don't remember either.
On E3. The ESA.
ESA. So where
Entertainment
were
Software
they?
Association.
This is their thing. Why didn't they take control of and grab the reins and be like, all right, let's come up with a plan. Everybody do what you were gonna do, and we're gonna put you up. Like, where was they made no initiative whatsoever to try to like make sure that E3 was still a thing but online only.
That bewildered me, honestly, and I think part of it probably has to do with the fact that if they were to do that, they probably really wouldn't have made money off of it. And because I assume they make money off of those ticket sales and
they do, yeah.
Whatever, I don't know that they give press passes for free or not, but I assume that like they probably get a chunk from the people who rent booths at E3 and etc. So I just imagine there was just no incentive for them to do that. And not to mention they would have had to put it together so quickly, and it would have been a lot of logistics. They may have not had the resources to do it, especially after how much flack they caught after, was it last year's disaster of like the information leak and all that. So I think they were already kind of in hot water, and this may have just been the opportunity to like kind of gracefully bow out of taking that position. At least for this year. Not to say that they won't come back next year. I don't think anything's been announced, but I understand maybe why they didn't. But yeah, it did kind of confuse me on what I did have that same thought of like, okay, so you knew you couldn't do it in person. Why didn't you put something together electronically? And we were kind of left with the remnants of it.
I suppose, like, I imagine that a large portion of their budget and they would have planned for the physical, location and the typical thing so far in advance that it might have just been too big a ship to pivot. Like, I was like, we just don't have the money and the resources to put this together because we haven't even officially canceled the thing that's definitely not going to happen. That kind of situation. What would you rather have? Would you rather have E3 back as it was? Like, just wave the wand, it's back next year, ta-da. COVID's still here, by the way. There's a magic bubble protecting E3 in this hypothetical. Or do you want to try this again with some different ideas?
That's a really, really good question.
Because this is our first time doing this during this season.
Right.
And I was kind of like, I was excited, but I was like, we were just going to miss it. Like, we're going to do our best to cover a couple highlights, but it would have been tough for us to really cover anything meaningful with our schedules and stuff. And this is not our full-time anything. Yeah, and so I think this was nicer to us.
Yeah. What, you think this was nicer to us?
Yeah.
Possibly because it was so spread out. Yeah. But just as a consumer, I think I'd rather have, as a fan, I think I'd rather have like a governing body to say, we're going to do it this month or this week or whatever. Just have the 3 days. Because it's just too much. I feel like I missed so much, not knowing when to look. And that really frustrated me as a fan. So I think as a fan, I think I'd rather have, it doesn't have to be E3, but if we could at least have a concerted effort to centralize. And I think that's never going to happen sans E3 because everybody wants to get their spotlight. And so they're, oh, cool. Well, if Bethesda's doing their thing here, then we're Ubisoft. We're going to do our thing here because we want this separate space. So I think like I said, sans E3, that's never going to happen. And then you just don't know when to look unless you're paying very close attention. So I think for me, it doesn't have to be E3, but I want something. I want something more concerted than what we had this year.
Yeah, I agree. I want something at minimum. I like you said, as a consumer, at minimum, I want a more laser focus. Give me a week in June, and then let's just talk about that for 3 months. Let's not give us time to disseminate and pick and choose what we want to talk about when we want to talk about it.
Totally.
I would personally have E3 back exactly as it was, but barring that, yes, let's give it to Keighley. Let him do it. Let him have the summer and in the winter when he does Game Awards, because or just give him Game Awards, and that can be the new E3, where it was going. I think, because I think E3 was going to bomb. I think the ESA and the E3 people were preparing themselves, they were creating something that everybody was going to hate. Like, all the rumors and signs were pointing to this weird, nonsensical, let's try to social media screw this kind of thing up. And I think it would have been the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people, especially people who don't want to travel too far to go all the way to LA or wherever it is. But give it to Keighley. Let him have it. It's fine.
Yeah, but you'd have to get those companies on board. So, I mean...
they're already on board. It's last year was
But if that were true, then they would have been more on board with Summer Games Fest. We would have had Sony and Microsoft there. That's not what we got.
I don't know. You said you were wondering earlier if we would have had... So I don't think we would have had the thing we wanted from them, even in a regular year. But they didn't
participate in Games Fest at all, is what I'm saying. So,
are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure Keighley had news. He had news, Keighley specifically. Maybe they were lukewarm on Games Fest, but they're not lukewarm on him. He's still respected, and
That's true.
And he's proving out these things. It was a trial run for everybody, and I think they'd be willing to listen. Okay, well, this didn't work out so great. What didn't you like? Tell me, Sony. I have a direct line to you, Phil Spencer. Tell me what you didn't like, and I will make it better next year.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And if we could get everybody on the same page and let Keighley organize it, but okay, it's going to be this week in June or whatever, then yes.
Right. I just miss it. I miss my summer games. This was supposed to be a slow year, man, and I don't think it could have gone by any faster.
I mean, I'm not mad at that, honestly, given the year.
Yeah, yes and no. Yes and no. All right. So, that's our topic of the show. We got one listener question from our good buddy Sean. He writes in, says, "Hey fellas, next month we'll finally get to see the next-gen consoles out in the wild. That's right, just a month and a half away. With this comes the graphical updates we're used to, but more processing power means more than just graphics. An example comes to mind is how the jump from the 360 to Xbox One allowed for Shadow of Mordor's amazing Nemesis system. What would you like to see that extra processing power put towards besides just better graphics? Take care, Sean." So basically, aside from making it look pretty, which is usually all it does, what can we expect from next gen? And what are we excited about? What are our hopes and dreams? So Jason, you're a little techie man, so go ahead and give us this, because mine's not as well thought out.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it depends on how you classify graphics, because I had some ancillary things that I would like to see. That I guess, Karch, when you and I spoke about it, you kind of said, well, that's just better graphics, and maybe that's true, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So basically everything we saw in the Unreal Engine 5 demo, it seemed like they had a better solution for doing ray tracing to make it easier for developers. So kind of like that next level of ray tracing. Because to me, lighting just adds so much. And yes, in a way it is graphics, but it's not when I think of graphics, I guess traditionally I think of just character model, and not so much. I mean, I know environment's part of it, of course, but there are these ancillary things that require you to process, like what would the physics be in real life? Though we haven't had I don't think we've had the technical resources to focus on those types of things until relatively recently. And so that's one thing that I'm like, okay, cool. Now we have not only the processing capability, but the tool set and to do that. So cool. I want to see next level ray tracing. I don't want to see it on just like a select few AAA games. Like I want other people to have access to it. I think that's what Unreal Engine 5 is going to bring. In addition, that they termed it, or they coined it, nanite geometry tech. That was a thing that Unreal Engine 5 showed us. And basically what it came down to is like you could render at kind of a small, like you can do more triangles to put it simply, but basically you could render these full scale models at full res rather than having it dumbed down at all. So I really hope to see more of that, of like, I'm sure these artists spend a lot of time doing these models, and to be able to see what their work really truly is and shine and be in that environment. And again, in combination with the ray tracing, the lighting effects, that sort of thing, I think it's going to add a lot of depth and immersion to these games, where maybe you primarily focused on just the character walking through a room, but now you'll really be able to see like what the developer intention was. And then I won't say lastly, thirdly, sound design. I'm really excited about the prospect of, if you watch the Unreal Engine 5 demo, I think other people will probably incorporate the same kind of thing, but they will simulate the way that a noise would sound in a certain environment, and be it an echo in a cave, or the way that the sound reflects off the walls, or whatever it is, that will be incorporated into the way that you're hearing that sound. And as someone who primarily games with headphones on, I'm really excited to hear that in addition to like 3D audio. It's going to be really cool, I think. And I think, again, that's probably going to add some more immersion to it. And then I will say, like, you look at a game like, what was the one that we didn't love? It was basically a walking simulator. It had that, like, the people whispering in your ear. Karch, what game was that? We bought it on the Switch. Hellblade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Hellblade used a technology called binaural recording, where they kind of like use this microphone setup that mimics the distance between the human ears, and that's how it will capture. I'm hoping that it won't take a special mic setup and audio techniques to achieve something similar with this newer 3D audio that we're going to have access to. And then lastly, in general, I think you could use this processing power not just for better graphics, but for better physics engines, because I know that's a limitation when you're modeling physics. And I know that's where Ragdoll comes in, because they can't calculate what would happen to that character model if that, like, say you're Dave Mirra or Tony Hawk falling off a skateboard. All of a sudden you're Ragdoll, because that's what they could do at the time. And it's hilarious. Don't get me wrong.
It's so good.
Goat Simulator. There's always going to be a place for the zaniness. But in these more realistic games, I'm hoping to see more realistic physics engines. Something that comes to mind, sports games. If you look at something like Madden, I feel like the tackles have always looked so weak and just crappy for so long. Like, it's just like you're pushing them over and hugging them. Like, I want to see what would happen if that 300-pound lineman tackles that 220-pound quarterback. Like, what does that look like? What do the physics of it look like? So I'm excited, and not just sports games and not just falling, but just like combat and collision. You talk about like collision zones of like some games will be platformers, and the character models don't add up where the collision square is to get to the platform. So a lot of those problems I'm hoping should be fixed with these newer tool sets that we have in this more processing power. But it's obviously going to depend on the developers to leverage that. So anyway, I know there's a lot of me talking. What do you think, Karch?
Yeah, those are all smart things, and I agree with Jason on all his points. The ray tracing, I know I was ragging on you earlier that it is just graphics, and it is like if you had to put it into like a category, it's a graphical update. But and I've joked many times that I don't know what ray tracing is. I know what ray tracing is. The lighting effects that we're starting to see with quote unquote next gen stuff and newer graphics cards really are something to behold. And it is at both times a very subtle difference and yet at both a very noticeable difference. Like just some before and afters between the Spider-Man 4 and 5 remaster. And like, wow. It's like, that's really great. And it's just because you have better lighting for the most part, a couple things here and there, but like lighting has previously been something so difficult to capture correctly, and it's something we'll continue to improve upon, but like we've made a leap, and you can tell, and it's nice. And it's nice that this next gen might be the first one in a while where we're like, wow, that's a huge leap in graphical fidelity on all fronts. And then my second thing would be, definitely about that physics engine, because we saw that demo from the Unreal Engine 5, and you're this woman going through this cave, and at the end, like, you pretty much turn into some sort of superhero, and you're like leaping and flying, and like, give me that fast-paced, like, just kind of anything's possible sort of gameplay. Like, obviously that might not fit in everything. You're never going to be leaping tall buildings in The Last of Us 3 and Uncharted 5, but like, let's broaden the scope, because even today games are still so like you're this little character in a very like little space battling maybe a huge enemy, but like it's just like it's hard to describe, but like the scope seems small, even though they might like dress it up. The scope seems small.
I agree with you. Like, I'm thinking specifically, The Last of Us Part 2 was awesome, but I'm thinking about the stealth sections. Imagine what you could do when you're emulating what a sound would sound like in a certain environment. That then opens up the possibility to give these enemies actual capability to hear certain things, and then they would only hear you if they would have heard it in real life. That sort of thing. Not just like the developer guessing that you're within this distance and you made this action. Which, again, I'm making a lot of assumptions about how game development works, but I can only imagine the possibilities and the amount of realism you can add when you have these extra tool sets and capabilities.
Yep. And I mean, but last but not least, because this is probably the most important thing, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, I am excited for eyebrow technology.
Oh, yeah, baby. Eyebrow tech.
Sweet, sweet brows, Peter Parker.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that and skin. I think with the lighting, the skin is so much better. Oh,
hair's going to be so good.
Can we get better hair? Can we?
Yeah. Put it on my head.
So. CG it.
CG hair.
Put the balls on Karch's head and CG
it. Good question, Sean. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, pleasure. Well, I really don't have much else to say about it, Karch. You want to close it? You want me to close this out?
Hades go brrr.
Can you explain that to me? Because I've heard.
It's just a meme. It's just a meme when you're like, you're trying to be like critical and nuanced and highbrow, and then like the thing you're railing against just couldn't care less because it's either mindless or it's just fun and simple, and so it's like. When you're, and I wrote this down as the joke, like, oh, next gen power, power graphics, what could be? And I'm like, all I can think about is Hades. So it's just Hades go brrr.
Well, and that's the thing, is that none of this is a substitute for great game design, period.
Which will come. It'll be there. Yeah. It's like, we don't like, there was a time where we were kind of stuck in that, like, oh, let's just make it look good or we can only make it look good or play well. Like, we don't have the time or management skills yet in this new generation to do that. That doesn't exist anymore. You get great game design with great graphical fidelity these days. It's just how well you get both just kind of depends on the different teams. Like, your Kojimas, they have a vision and they help, and their passion and that vision, they manage a team to get it done, but he doesn't make games look as good as they do. That's not his skill set. And so you just have a team that does that based on his vision. and any other director. I just pulled his name out because it's always easy to pull out Kojima's name. But yeah, so.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that new eyebrow tech next gen.
Bug snacks.
Oh yeah, then bug snacks. And all the zany. But yeah, that's all I have. That's all we have for this week. We hope you have a fantastic week. We will try, but we are never free to play. Oh, that's funny.
I'm gonna take my sweater off.
Oh yeah, take it off real slow for the camera, please, though, so I can use it as B-roll.